Teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Welcome to the #1 show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. To my regular listeners, we are here again and again and again. It has become the expectation now, right? You guys have understand the expectation. We get people on here, whether it's myself speaking by just solo, doing a solo episode, or do I have a guest? We are here to serve you. We are here to give you some information that is going to be beneficial towards your future. Today, I have the franchise maven, Mr. Greg Mohr, who is about to give us an absolute masterclass on franchising, how to build your business, and really understanding if the franchise is for you or if it's not for you. And I myself, having been a part of several fitness franchises that have gone under and seen owners that have not done their job, I got to tell you, I am super, super pumped to have this conversation with you, Greg. So all that being said, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Aswan. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's just get it started right where you actually started. I believe you said you started at a Taco Bell. And, much like my first job was actually it was network marketing, but it was at a Washington sports club that was underneath a company named Town Sports International that had Boston Sports Club, Philly Sports Club, New York Sports Club, and Washington Sports Club. So when you step into these new jobs, you're not doing it for the money, but you're learning the structure along the way and things like that. So I'm really curious to know, what kinds of things did you learn when you were there? What made you go there, and then what made you kind of expand? And I'll kind of give you the open slate to walk us through that.
Thank you, Aswan. So Taco Bell, that was back when I was in high school. So
yeah.
First job a lot of us got were in fast food. Mine just happened to be Taco Bell. I think I knew the owners, or they were hiring at the time or something like that.
Right.
But I stayed there for a while and I moved up in it. And I was working for a lady named Kathy. And I came to find out that Kathy actually owned 50 Taco Bells throughout the Sacramento, California area.
Wow.
And she was a master franchisor. So
wow.
I moved my way up there. I ran her restaurants. I helped her build up her teams in her various restaurants. So that was my first foray into franchising.
Mm-hmm. Now, what would you say were the major takeaways from that experience? Because one of the things that does, especially when you're talking about those fast food chains, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, that they have to understand when they're getting into business that their own is that on their own, is that you can go to a McDonald's in Sacramento, you can go to McDonald's in Missouri, you can go to McDonald's in Florida, you can go to McDonald's in DC. The number 2 meal is going to be the same, the exact same thing every single time. And this is why they are guaranteeing that you're going to make money, because they're so confident in their system. What did you learn by that person? Please just, kind of talk us through some of the major lessons that you took away from the fact that you had a lady that owned 50 of them and was probably walking around like you wouldn't even know how much she's doing. You know what I'm saying? Like just walking around, doing all these great things. Walk us through some of the things that you learned when you were starting to really be mentored by her and things like that.
It was really great, because what she needed me to do was just build up her teams. She just needed some good management in there to build their teams.
Right.
And the easy thing about it was going in there is they had Taco Bell in any franchise, any good franchise, they have all the processes and procedures for you to run. The exact recipes, when to cook things, how long to cook them for. So you could go into any single one that you wanted to manage it, and it was going to be exactly the same every single time. Just like you mentioned, Aswan, that, the McDonald's, every time you go in there, the meals are going to be exactly the same. Same with Taco Bell. So it was really simple to operate those, because of the fact that all of those processes and procedures, recipes, how much food to order, you had your inventory sheet. Oh, real simple. Check off boxes, get this, buy this, stock this up to this level. You're good to go. You're going to have this many customers. You're going to need this much food prepped ahead of time. Really great. So the only challenging part was, of course, just building your teams on there. And that's where I came in, as I helped her build up her teams. But I really liked just the simplicity of the franchise model, in that everything was already laid out for you. Everything you do throughout the day, each hour of the day, that there's certain things that need to be done. So you just have a little list, check off list, just go through the list, check them all off. It's done. Good. We're moving on.
Yeah, you actually already beat me to it, because that was going to be my next question, is the challenges now. Because I again, as many franchises, particularly in the fitness world that I've been a part of, I would say this all the time about a previous owner that I was working for with a company named Nine Round, that if he bought into the franchise, and I would always say, if the franchisors saw you every day, they would ask for their money back, or they would try to replace you. Okay, so please talk to us a little bit about the challenges you see when it comes to building these teams, because just because you have the money, or just because you may have put your 401k, like this particular owner, he paid for the franchise with his 401k, so you would think he had more urgency in terms of making calls and getting people in. But again, we won't even talk about that. But speak a little bit on the challenges when it comes to the people that you and the teams that you build and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's a great question there, Aswan. That's the one thing when you're running a business, because that was probably the most challenging part, is that part is up to you. So the franchise can put everything in place, you run everything the way they've got it outlined. But when it comes to the people, you got to be real careful about who you're hiring, who you bring in on that, and then have a way to build up that team. When I looked at the people that I brought in,
Right.
and if you have non-skilled workers, you're going to be doing a lot of hiring, because obviously unskilled workers, they easy to find, but they have a tendency to move on pretty quickly to other things. So what
Okay,
you need to
well,
look.
because I have to pause you there, because the acronym for this show, Move Swiftly, the acronym of Swiftly is skilled workers, well-informed workers, front team workers, and the LY stands for lift yourself. So I want you to kind of define what you mean by skilled workers when it comes to who you're hiring. So that way people know in their mind, am I a skilled worker? Am I someone that can run their own business? So what do you mean, particularly, what do you mean by skilled workers?
So skilled workers are ones that have some sort of knowledge about what you're going to do. So if you go into like a fitness, which you're referring to as one,
Mhm.
on that, they've got some knowledge of how to generate a class, how to create a class, how to do the fitness workout, mechanics. They do a little bit more about mechanics. So they've got some background in running automobiles, fitness. They have some background
Yeah,
in the fitness industry as well. When you come to some of the fast food places, most of the people that I hired on the front line of that was simply, college students that just
yeah,
need a little extra
high
money.
school kids, right?
Mhm. Uh, you know, High school students, housewives that were bored on that one. But what I really look for is to make them skilled, is I
Yeah,
wanted them to become skilled. So I was looking for people that, there are some times when you just needed to fill positions and you just wanted to make certain you had a good, outgoing, really friendly person. But what I look for is people that wanted to learn the skill and wanted to become more skilled with what they did. So I was looking for leaders. I was looking for people that wanted to move up
yeah,
within the company itself,
hmm,
so that I could help them become more skilled
yeah,
at leading other teams on
right,
there. So I tried to find the ones where I was looking for uh, somebody that had motivation to move up a little bit further than just being
right,
that online worker, a simple one like that. So that's what I think it really helped when I was building up those teams, is
yeah,
when I was doing the interviewing, is
hmm,
I would find out from them who wants to be, you want to move up into management, you want to learn more skills. I'm going to teach you those skills. I'm going to do that. But I'm looking for people that are motivated to do that sort of thing.
yes, and that's actually, I'm so happy you brought that up, because it's taken me back to, just because you may be the cashier, just because you may be working at a fast food place, does not mean you can't inspire or aspire to do some major things. I'll give you an example. There was a 7-Eleven that I would go to frequently by my aunt's house, right? And I would go in this 7-Eleven, and then sometimes the cashier is just whatever, doing what they got to do. Just get your coffee and please leave. I don't feel like talking. They're on their phone. They're just doing whatever. Till one day I went to the 7-Eleven, and this lady's asking me, how's your day? What type of coffee do you like? What are you doing up so early? This, down, the third. And then I looked at it, because this was actually when I was just starting my podcast. And I'm like, man, thank you for that. You really kind of made my day. And then she looked at me, she goes, look, I learned you have maybe 7 seconds to affect someone's day when they walk in here. So I'm going to do whatever it is I got to do. And I did a whole podcast episode about just her, the girl working at a 7-Eleven, which is one of the most recognizable franchises. And if you do that with enough people, you can develop your own brand, you can develop your own style. and you have your certain uniqueness to you. So, that leads me to asking you, when it comes to teaching these skills, what types of things did you try to inspire your employees to do, inspire the team to do, to make it so that, listen, people recognize these things. Listen, people are going to be, whether they're coming in, they want a chalupa, ask them, okay, great. Do you want this with that? What kind of sauce you want? Speak to us a little bit about some of the stuff that you did to train them to develop these people skills.
First off, is I did train my people in and of itself. I got to know them. You
Yeah.
treat your people right, your people are going to treat the customers right. So I got to know them. What are they doing? Where do they see themselves going? What are they doing right now to try and improve their selves to move up in the world? On that, it didn't matter whether they're in high school, whether they're in college, whether they're housewives, whatever it was. I said, what are you looking to do? What does your future look like, and how can I help you get to where you want to be?
Right.
So as part of that is helping you get to know your team and finding out what their aspirations are and help them build up. And then you relay that to your customers. So now you get them, just like you said, as when you have them talk to the customers, when the clients come in, don't just take their order. I mean, during the lunch rush and that sort of thing, it is a little bit of a challenge too, when you got people moving in and out, a little bit of a challenge sometimes in those fast food places to really get to know your people. But like you said, those nice comments like that. Oh, it's great to see you again. As when I remember you came in just the other day. Are we going to do the 3 tacos again today, or would you prefer a burrito this time? Get to know them just like that. I said, it just takes a few seconds.
Yeah.
But firstly, you just get to know your employees, find out what their aspirations are, set them on a course to build them up, and then just push that on, have them relate that to the customer and say, now talk to your customers the way I talk to you. What are you doing? How's your day? It's good to see you again. That sort of thing. It really builds up a good team environment, and the clients, your customers that come in, it's more personal when they do that, instead of just a simple transaction. Here's your $5, here's my 3 tacos.
Yeah.
We're gone, we're out of here. Now it's something like, oh yeah, I got to go talk to Greg. Greg is and see how Greg's doing on there. And it really helps. It really helps build a loyal base of clients.
Yeah, even if you don't comment every time, I remember actually there was a Wawa. After my workout, I would go to a Wawa, get oatmeal every day. One day I didn't get oatmeal. The manager comes out and looks at me, "No oatmeal today?" I'm like, "Oh man, thanks for noticing." Again, not anything, but it's like, "Oh, not getting oatmeal today." All right, well, I'm like, "All right, cool. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna go in that store, get my gas, get my meals," because that's how you build community, folks. That's how you build certain things, and you make it so you are more important. People want to be a part of that, and that's how you grow as a person. And that kind of leads me to the next thing I want to ask you is, now that you have, how did you develop your own, is it a consulting firm? I know you have your own book sale, you're an author now, you host a lot of stuff. When did you start to branch out on your own to start developing your own company and your own style of doing things? And how does the whole thing work?
Well, amazingly enough, it took me 30 years to start branching out on my own after that. I went into restaurant management for about 15 years. I'd managed another restaurant, a Lions restaurant, kind of like an upscale Denny's in Northern California. I went on to become a microelectronic circuit engineer. Got a degree in electrical engineering and physics, got a master's degree in business, bought dry cleaners with another engineer friend of mine, bought storage units, did rental properties. But then after about 30 years in the corporate world, left there. My friend who owned the other half of the businesses that we own, I sold my half to him. He left as well, the corporate world. At that point in time, I said, I've got to do something for myself. I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So
here we go. Hold on, I gotta pause you there. Here we go again, listeners. This book has literally been mentioned at least maybe 100 times by myself, but again, we have another guest that has decided. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm telling you, Greg, that is like the Bible for every one of the listeners. Everyone listeners know I absolutely love that book. And again, the more guests I have on, they talk about Rich Dad Poor Dad. Again, if you have not read that book, you are missing out. It's incredible read, man. So listen, I'm glad you brought it up, because it is such a powerful read in terms of how you go about thinking about money and ultimately how you think about going about your life. So, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Well, all right, Aswan. If you're in the corporate world, just forewarning, it will ruin your corporate life. If you read that book, ruined mine. He's ruined many a corporate career. That was it. So I had to get out of there. And I said,
because he teaches you, man, I have it within me to put my money in the right way, in the right direction. I don't have to depend on anybody else, to the point where, again, if you're reading it in the corporate world, you're like, man, I don't need you to teach me. I know how to manage my money. I could branch out on my own, and I could do it with the right steps, the right process. That quadrant he has is just absolutely fascinating. It's
Yeah,
fascinating. Fascinating.
I love
Trading
that.
it is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, that was it. So I left, and then I said, the most fun I had running a business was when I had that when I was doing the Taco Bell. So I said, I got to get into the franchising thing, but I don't know how to do it. So I just started went and click happy on all these different franchises on the internet.
Hmm,
Finally found a franchise consultant who knew they existed. I didn't at the time. It was
exactly.
about 12 years ago, and he steered me towards a Schooley Mitchell telecommunications consulting franchise, which I got into. Dennis Schooley, who runs it, really set the stage for how franchising works. Great training, just like back when the Taco Bell days. Great training, step-by-step process. Here's how you do it. So I did that for a couple of years, but I really liked what that franchise consultant did.
Hmm.
Because even with Schooley Mitchell, I was, going around from business to business in the Austin, Texas area, helping
Right.
them with their telecommunications need. But I like what the franchise consultant did, which is work from home. And then
Mhm.
I get to work with people all over the United States and really actually all over the world.
Right.
So I went back to the franchise consultant. I said, teach me what you do. So that was about 10 years ago. And I haven't looked back since. And that's where I started getting my consulting business going and just started working it on up from there.
Right. So can you kind of walk us through a little bit about I'd say what you would consider a an opportunity to be in franchising for people, because a lot of people, it's so much confusion out there, and that people want to grow, they want to make money. I remember actually being approached by someone that told me network marketing is a better form of franchising now, given the fact that we have so many ways of communicating with each other. There's so many MLMs out there. There's so many things now in which can lead to people growing their business. I even look at sometimes social media groups as a form of franchising, because people can get their own profile, that you could teach someone how to do their own profile. So walk us through a little bit about, what exactly you consider a franchise, and then where the opportunity, how someone looking into a franchise what they should be asking themselves in regards to what the opportunity would be for them, and if it's something that they should actually pursue. Because again, like my previous owner, he's good in fitness, but when it comes to making calls and getting people in, he wasn't good at that. So that wasn't the franchise for him per se. If he had known that going in, then maybe he just becomes a trainer and doesn't actually spend his 401k on this facility. So I think it's important that we give that clear indication for people as well.
Okay, perfect, Aswin.
Mhm.
A franchise, you are renting the business model. That's what you get. It's a
Oof.
business model franchise, you're renting that business model. The franchise has already gone through and made all the mistakes for you. So you don't have to make all the mistakes again. They've got it all planned out, step-by-step process. You come in, we're going to teach you how to do this. So you want to get involved in a franchise. Not all of them are like the brick and mortars we talked about. Some of them are like the Schooley Mitchell that I discussed. So you have your brick and mortar franchises. That's going to cost you the big bucks, 250,000, 300,000 on up. You're going to need about a $300,000 to $500,000 net worth. Prime real estate location, you build it, it will come. General theme. Service industry. Service industry, anywhere like my franchise at Schooley Mitchell was about 100,000, 80, 100,000 at the time. You can get in for about 150,000.
Now,
Give or take, depending on if you need.
would service industry be an example, like a truck, like a air conditioning service or a trucking service, where they're going and like, let's say I call, I'm trying to think of a name, like the thing they put glass on, windshield glasses. Can't even think of the name of it right now. The basically they'll come
Safe light.
Safe Light, yeah, Safe Light. Safe Light will come to you and they'll fix your glasses. So that would be an example of a service. Okay, cool.
Yep. So home services, anywhere from outside, taking care of the grounds, maids, windows, siding, kitchen remodeling, bathroom remodeling, tutoring, senior care, dog sitting, dog walking, all sorts of different things that you can do out there in the service industry. Any franchise that you get into, almost any franchise you get into, you can have a one-time franchise fee of around $50,000, give or take. Okay? That gets you all the training, everything you need to know how to do it. It doesn't matter which franchise it is for the most part, whether it's the big brick and mortar places or the service industry, around 50,000 is going to be your franchise fee for a great franchise on that one time. The rest of the investment is what it takes to build that business up
Mm-hmm.
on that. You don't have to do these full time. There are many that you can do semi-absentee, 10 to 15 hours a week, manage the manager, manage the profit and loss statements on there. It's pretty easy to get a loan for franchises because they have that proven track record of success
Right.
on there. You are going to learn, you don't have to know the industry that you want to get into, but you just have to have interest in it.
Yeah.
So to figure out which one you really like and what part of the process that I take people through is you really have to look at where have you been?
Mm-hmm.
So where have you been? What skill set, what's inside your brain? What skill set do you bring to the table? And then figure out what skill set is that franchise looking for. So
Right.
your friend over there, the skill set that they were looking for on that franchise was for him or her to be outgoing, to be able to make the phone calls, to be able to bring in the clients if they're going to work on the business, building it up.
Right.
If you don't want to do that, if you don't like doing that, but still like the franchise, you
Right.
just need to realize that you will be hiring somebody to do that for you.
Right.
Well, that can be done, quite easy. Next thing to look at is where are you at now? So how much time do you have to invest? And how much money are you willing to invest? Not how much money you have to invest, but how much are you willing to invest in that franchise
Mm-hmm.
itself? Each franchise is going to have in their documents the minimum net worth requirement. So any great franchise, if you don't meet that minimum net worth requirement, they will not consider you for a franchise because they don't want you to run out of money. So make certain you take a look at that. You will be talking to many different franchisees along the way on there. So always remember to talk to as many franchisees as you can before you sign any agreements or decide to get involved in that franchise. Get
Right.
to know that. Are there any surprises on that total investment? Did you have anything extra that you had to pay? How long did it take for you to start bringing in money? How much did you bring in? How much do you bring in? And really, what do you have to do to get it? Picture yourself doing that. If you can picture yourself doing what it takes, especially if you talk to the franchises that are making the most money, and you can picture yourself doing that, you're probably on the right track for something like that. If you can't, again, hire somebody to do it for you or move on to another franchise. And then the next step then is, where do you want to be 5 to 10 years from now? And what is that franchise going to do to help you get there?
Yes, and I think it's very important that I don't want to brush over what you said in regards to it's you renting the business model, okay? Because a lot of people get into it and they're kind of stroking their ego, calling themselves a business owner, which again, technically that's fair, but you're renting a business model. So you got to be very, very careful that you didn't just pay to have another job versus you actually going and owning a business and making all of the decisions that you would want for your business. So that is a very important distinction because you can lose a lot of money and then find yourself in a very difficult place if you don't make the right decision and do your proper research. And that leads me to asking you too, is let's look at it on the flip side. You know, if someone's doing well in business, or I'm not sure if you actually offer this, but do you offer any advice or any consolidation for people that are thinking about taking their business and going franchise? You know, like, again, I see a lot of it in the fitness industry or even when it comes to my thought leadership world, the books I have, there's people who may have a training service. Like I'm going to take this concept and instead of just selling, even actually my first job, I was with Cutco while I was working at the gym. I was with Cutco selling those kitchen knives, and you know they have something that higher above them that's called vector marketing, and it was just about giving the reps the ability to go and sell kitchen knives. But you know, you say vector marketing kitchen knives, it really didn't have much to do as opposed to them going franchise. So do you counsel people on if they should actually take their business franchise, or do you just stick to the people that are interested in buying into a franchise?
Yes, I help them turn businesses into a franchise as well as one, and I've done it to a few different ones, and I will coach them on that. Basically, do you want to turn your business into a franchise? Probably three things to consider when you're doing that. One, first off, you want to be making some pretty decent money at that if you want to attract more people. Now, these are just three recommendations. These are not set in stone. We've had franchises that didn't do this and they still made it.
Right.
But one, you want to be bringing in net profit of around $100,000 or more,
Okay.
because then it looks good to people who are thinking about getting into it.
Okay.
The second thing is you want to make certain that you've replicated that business. You reproduced. Let me put that back.
Yeah.
You want to make certain. Let me say that again. You want to make certain that that business can be used by as many different people in as many different cities and states as possible.
Mm.
that'll also give you more of a pool of potential franchisees to get into. Now, there are boat rental franchises out there. Obviously, there's some areas in the middle of the desert where a boat rental franchise is not going to work, but they still work just fine because there's enough cities
Mm-hmm.
in states where that'll work. So think of that. And then the replication part, if you've already reproduced it one or two times and shown that you can, so you have two or three locations, that's a great plus. So
Okay.
putting those things together, 100,000 or more, it can be used in many different, whatever the service or product is, can be used in many different cities and states. And
Right.
you replicated it. You put those three things together on that, and you're going to have a really good pool of franchisees. You don't have to have all those things. You don't have to have all three of them. You don't have to have any of them. You can still make it. It just makes it more appealing to people when you've done those three things.
Right. Now, has there ever been with the experiences that you've had, has there ever been like a great deal of conflict that you've had to sort of resolve between the franchisor and the franchisee? Meaning like I'll give you an example at 9 round. So at 9 round, the social media thing was a big deal because you don't want to be putting the workouts out there for an Orange Theory somebody else to see. There's a lot of because the workouts come from corporate or whatever. So when it came to us putting it on social media, the corporate people, the franchisors would always see it. And there was a time where we were recording a workout and the owner of the 9 round noticed that the old logo was on one of the punching bags. So she immediately gets at the owner and says, "Hey, we need to switch that logo, and that was going to cost him a couple $1,000s to get the new bags and all that kind of stuff. And you didn't have the profit to make it and all that kind of stuff." So can you speak a little bit about, or if there is any situations where there's conflict, or do you help sort of guide people when it comes to the conflict between the franchisee and the franchisor?
I do not at
Oh,
all. Once they become a franchisee, the franchisor takes over on that one. That is, however, something to
yeah,
keep in mind as one, because at some point in time,
yes,
any franchise that you work with may change their logo. So in a smaller business, service type business, it's not quite a big of a deal because you don't have as much to change. But if you're looking at a brick and mortar place and
hmm
they decide they want to change their colors, you're going to have to redo the whole thing. So
hmm
look at that franchise agreement on that. And this is where a good franchise attorney comes in
yes,
and make certain that there's nothing in there that says that, within the next 5 years that you have to have, they may change something, they may adjust something on there. And get it added in to the franchise agreement that you don't want to change anything. It may or may not work. There's some things that you can add into a franchise agreement. There's many things you cannot. But that's where a good franchise attorney comes in, look over your paperwork, let you know what you're getting yourself involved in.
exactly.
And if that logo changes at some point in time with the franchise doing it, you will be changing everything that has on that logo. So that is one thing to keep in mind when you're doing that sort of thing.
Absolutely. It is important. Again, I can talk to you for days and days in terms because I've seen it from every level. I've seen it from the employee level, seen it that franchisee level, and then the franchisor level. There's so many things that are mixing in there that you have to be really, really careful, and you got to have that paperwork right. Get your franchise attorney to look over it. Talk to as many people as possible because this is a decision that you're going to have to live with for a very, very long time, and that I do want to make sure we talk about your book a little bit. Real Freedom, Real Freedom. Just the title in itself is very powerful. So can you speak on just what's in the book? What can people expect about the book? How did that project come about?
So after about 10 years, as one, I've been doing this and I've been getting a lot of the same questions over and over again.
Yes,
And franchising isn't right for everybody. I look into it with many different people, and many people decide franchising is not for them. So I
right.
decided to put everything that I did that I'm going to work with you on down in the book. How to investigate that franchise, what to look for, answer all the questions that people ask me on a regular basis. I've got it all down in that book with
Mhm.
real world examples of the people that I work with. That way, people can pick up the book ahead of time, get to know me a little bit, get to know
Mhm.
the franchise investigation process, and then I think they can make it a bit more of an informed decision one way or the other, whether franchising is right for them. But it's really step by step. What do you look for in a franchise? The funding opportunities, make sure you have a franchise attorney, franchise disclosure documents, and what we just discussed earlier as one. The very last chapter is about turning your business into a franchise.
Yes, and so with all that, what do you see as the next phase to your business, or what can people like? How do you see it growing? What is going to be next? How can you serve people? Like, what do you see it sort of turning into in the next 5 or 10 years?
I will continue to help people, corporate refugees, quite a few. A lot of people these days are getting out of the corporate world, especially
That's
after being
that's a term right there, corporate refugees. Maybe
yeah.
that's a great term.
So yeah, corporate, just like myself, corporate
Yeah.
refugee, get out of that one. I help a lot of those, and I'm turning more people with their businesses are turning it into a franchise as a way to grow. So I will continue helping them do that as well.
Okay. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? How can they reach out if they want to hear more? Where do you send folks?
FranchiseMaven.com, my website. That's franchise, MAV as in Victor, EN.com. Email me at greg@franchisemaven.com, or just pick up the phone and give me a call at 361-772-6401.
All right, and that will also be included in the show notes as well. So, Greg, the way I close out all the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are the version of Greg that is stuck in some corporate 9 to 5. You just are a little annoyed, not a little, very much annoyed and tired of your day to day. You're tired of doing this stuff. Rich Dad, it's right before you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, actually. So pretend that version of Greg has come into the Zoom room. Just give him some words of encouragement and we'll officially close.
Good to have options. Don't give up on yourself. You've had many, many great experiences in life. Somebody out there is looking for you to utilize everything that is inside your head. So go for your options. Look for your options. Franchising is one of them. Look at it. Maybe it is right now. Maybe it's not, but it's good to have options, and your experiences are golden.
Oh man, love that very much. As promised, listeners, I told you you're going to get a masterclass on franchising. I told you you're going to get a masterclass on what you should be doing, even if you are that low-level employee that is maybe giving people coffee every morning. Do it with some purpose. Do it with some passion. Do it like you care about somebody, all right? And it's important that you as a trainer or someone who is that manager pay attention to not just your customer, but pay attention to the people that you bring in and make sure you are committed to self-development. That's what this show has been about from day one. Commit yourself to self-development, because wherever you sort of land in the working world, there's always an opportunity for you to grow in that. So all that being said, Greg, I appreciate the work you're doing. Appreciate having you on. Looking forward to staying in touch with you. Everyone out there, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.